Hello. Let me get my comments open. All right. So, first of all, excuse the blanket. I'm cold. It may come off when I'm more heated. Howdy. So, first of all, sorry I missed last week. I was out of town, but we are back in business. Later, I think towards the end of March, I'll be moving, so we might miss a week there. But besides that, I'll be here every Monday. And we are doing the Monday Fun Day, which is we go live here, we talk about real shit, and then we go on to my OnlyFans and we do other things. It's just a different kind of live. So I know a lot of you have been loving going on both. Like you come here and then you go straight there, which is really fun. So we will be doing that again today. So it is 6:30 Pacific now. And I will be here for up to an hour and a half because at 8 Pacific, I will be over there. And there will be no blanket on that live, if you catch my drift. Instagram is still down. It should be back up any day. So can't follow me there. But you can check out my jazzylicious.org. The reason I had a .org is because I thought TikTok wouldn't be as strict about it, but it was. But yeah, you can find all my socials there except for Instagram. But I have a new TikTok I just started that I haven't added to that. So I need to do that. YouTube, you guys should check out YouTube, especially if you like the kind of stuff I talk about here. You would like the kind of stuff I will talk about there. I'm going to do a video on this, what I'm going to talk about today over there. I like to talk to you guys first because you guys help me I like to hear your feedback. I can kind of organize my thoughts and then I can do like a YouTube video. The camera is a little blurry, like more than usual. Is it like a connection thing? I feel like I just use my laptop and the laptop webcam sucks. So this is the laptop that the law school recommended we all get, and they don't like us using Apple. So, but when I do move, I'm going to actually set up like podcasty shit. Finally. Oh, hi. Yeah, you were looking for my IG. It's still down. And there's a fake one up there right now. It has like 1,000 followers. That's not me. You could tell it's not me. I don't talk like that. So that's not me. But my IG is in the works of coming back. I'm just waiting on that. They're like, it's any day now. So I'm just waiting. Oh, Pigeon Emperors is here. Pigeon Emperors, you're not going to like today's topic. You're not going to like it. Because today's topic kind of is piggybacking off of the topic we talked about a few weeks ago, which is probably not up on, because I know Twitch deletes streams after 2 weeks, but it will be up on the YouTube channel where I upload all these, but it's not so I have 2 YouTube channels. One is all these streams and then one is like separate content. It'll still be up there if you guys are interested. But we talked about the high value narrative. And I'm interested in this because I know I have a big male audience, obviously. And being online in the capacity that I am, seeing the rise of these gurus that are like really speaking to disenfranchised, disillusioned young men, and they're feeding you guys false prescriptions, false everything. And it doesn't take a lot of reading and a lot of research or just, brain cells to understand the issue with all of this. So I'm kind of piggybacking off of that. And we're going to talk about this idea of junk values and the loneliness epidemic, which is also interesting to me, not only because of everything I just said, but there is new CDC data out about that is really concerning about especially young kids, young girls and boys, and how lonely, depressed, suicidal. Who the fuck is that? I'm not answering that. It can't be anybody. Anyways, I get really nervous when the doorbell rings because nobody visits me. And it's too late to be like UPS or something. Maybe it is. Okay. Anyways, back to the topic. There is just, I think it was like 3 in 10 young girls have like, I don't remember exactly, so don't quote me, either like had suicidal thoughts or, just very, very sad, lonely times right now. And it's kind of like a loneliness epidemic. And yeah, social media is wreaking havoc. I do agree with Pigeon Emperors on one thing. Okay. But I don't agree with him on a lot of other things, which we'll get into. But so I was watching a lot of someone named, I think it's Johan Harry, I'm not sure how to say his name. I also did order, it might be his book that just came, who knows. And I really like how he has kind of curated a lot of research on this topic and a lot of the things he talks about. So I watched a lot of his interviews. I haven't read his book, but I will be reading his book. And he really piggybacks off of the research done by Tim Kasser on this idea of junk values, right? So I took some notes, but honestly, not a lot. But yeah, and he also talks about how we're getting lonelier and lonelier as a society. And we're at a point in society where all our physical needs are met to an extent that they never have been before, right? More and more people have, life is easier and easier physically for right, but our psychological needs are being met less and less, and it is leading to this kind of loneliness epidemic. And he was talking about how before there was a question that would be asked, like, oh, now I can see that I'm kind of like tweaking, but there was a question that would be asked, like, how many close friends do you have? And people used to say like 5. Now the most common answer is 0. Like, who can you actually call when you need somebody? Who can you actually depend on, like, as a friend? And a lot of people don't have friends. And this is very weird because we're in the most connected society of all time, right? We have social media, we have FaceTime, we can call anybody at any time, we can talk to anybody at any time, we can express our grievances online and have a bunch of people relate to us. So why is this happening? I heard a stat that suicidal thoughts from females from 10 to 15 have gone up 200% in the past years. Don't quote me on. Yeah, I've heard this too, but I don't remember the exact percentage either. It was probably my job, especially if I'm doing a podcast episode on it, to pull it up. But if maybe the moderator wants to pull it up and type it to me, I can read it out. But there's this new data has been kind of going viral. And I do think part of it, like, and people always say more people are diagnosed with depression, anxiety than ever. Part of that, I think, is we are just diagnosing more people than ever. And I think a lot of times we are over-diagnosing people and we are giving people meds that they do not need, whether it pertains to depression, anxiety, or ADHD, a bunch of other things. This doesn't mean that I'm against meds or that nobody needs meds, but I don't think meds should be the default answer when somebody has these kind of problems. And for a lot of doctors, they're just like, oh, okay, here you go. Very easy to get an Adderall prescription, very easy to get put on antidepressants or anxiety medication. And one thing that Johan, why did I call him John? He talks about is that while depression does have a little bit of a biological component to it, this idea that it's just this chemical imbalance has actually been debunked for the most part. And a lot of times, the reason you are depressed makes sense. It's not anything wrong with you. It's because your life and your needs aren't being met. A lot of time, your psychological needs aren't being met. And as a society, we have grown more and more to a point where more and more of us are not getting these needs met. And part of that reason is this idea of junk values that he talks about. So just like junk food makes us physically sick, he talks about how junk values make us psychologically sick. And what are these junk values? This is for you, Pigeon Emperors. It is all the stuff that these gurus, these Andrew Tates, these Kevin Samuels, they talk about, they promote. And it's not just them. It's kind of what social media in general promotes. Chasing wealth, chasing status, chasing materialism. These things are values that have been shown by his research very, very, very what's the word? I'm struggling today. Hold on. Modern Western medicine has focused for a long time on treating symptoms rather than deeper causes. Very, very true. But he has like a robust set, like he's used a lot of studies with big populations, lab experiments, etc. And this has been replicated over multiple studies that has shown basically that chasing money and status and all of these things that Pigeon Emperors thinks is a good thing and Andrew Tate thinks is a good thing, and they're telling you men, especially men that are sad, that this is how you can be not sad, will make you more sad, right? So the more you believe you can buy happiness through wealth or displaying status, the more likely you are to be miserable. And let's see. And basically, he breaks this down by chasing extrinsic values and intrinsic values, right? So he found that people who achieve their extrinsic goals are no more happier. So people who say, oh, I want this house, I want this car, I want this new thing, I want this many followers on Instagram, I want to get this girl, whatever. These people felt no increase in happiness when they got those things. And I mean, this is just personal anecdote. I can attest to that when it comes to materialism, and I struggle with materialism. So this is not me like, anytime I do these kind of like talks, it's not me like, I am living life great and you aren't. No. I struggle with this too. Now, I don't struggle with chasing what Andrew Tate is chasing, but I do struggle with liking nice things, and like I have the means to buy things, basically like any material thing that I want for the most part. And I have done it. I have gone on these crazy shopping sprees. I've gotten everything I've wanted, and it's just really empty. Hold on. Okay, we got this. My moderator is sending me study population included 1,913 college students. Okay, so this is a college student one. So yeah, basically students with loneliness reported significantly more suicidal thoughts, depressive symptoms, and that, yeah, a lot of people are lonely, basically. Okay. As a military member who works in the medical field, I cannot tell you how many times in my career I've seen people given answers to the symptoms rather than trying to find out why. Yeah, this was to hazard. Yeah. We are a highly and this is one of the, so it's very annoying, I think, when people are like, oh, you know, we are more depressed than ever in a way, but I wouldn't say that we should measure that by how many people are on antidepressants. So you hear this argument from the right a lot, like, oh my God, there's so many women on antidepressants, and that must be because, you know, they're not married. And it's like, a lot of people are on antidepressants because it's very like, it's like, you literally will go on TikTok, I've talked about this before, and they'll be like, are you sad? Okay, go to your doctor and get meds. And then you go to your doctor and they give you meds. And it's also very much, and I hate to do this because I hate the person that said this, but it was I tell you guys, I listen to a lot of people I usually very much disagree with. This was a political commentator that I very much disagree with, but this I agreed with. And she was saying that a lot of times with sadness or depression, if you know why you had or you have to be sad. Am I back? Okay. And I'm not saying this like you never need, like, obviously I'm not a doctor. You know, you go to a doctor, but, and I think sometimes maybe if it's really bad, you do need it. But like, if you're going through a breakup and you're really, really sad and you're depressed, it makes sense that you have a reason. It's a natural human emotion. And I think a lot of us, we start thinking that these natural human emotions are not normal anymore, especially when we're on social media and we're seeing the best of everybody's life. And I think it's doing more damage than good. I was on antidepressants because I was married. Yeah, I bet that happens too. So, and this isn't like, we talked about this before, having a lack of material things does make you, like, if you don't have enough money to like live, or you don't have your basic needs met, that is going to cause unhappiness. But this excess amount that people like Andrew Tate are like, these high value, do you make 6 figures a year? Do you do this? Do you do that? Do you have a Lamborghini? Do you have a Bugatti? And showing off all this stuff online, those people are far more likely to be miserable. So never be fooled by those people. You do not know what they're going through. And I like this quote, constantly seeking material things leads to a corruption of values that makes you significantly more unhappy. That is the conclusion of this research. And well-being is about connection to meaningful work, purpose, values, nature, and helping others. This is what we talked about, that one stream. So Kasser discovered that people whose lives were dominated by extrinsic values had a worse time in almost every respect. They felt sicker, they were angrier, they experienced less joy, more despair, they had worse relationships, and they were far more insecure. I would like to take issue with what is this definition of, okay, so Pigeon Emperors already has an issue. I would like to take issue with this. What is this definition of happiness? How easily can it be measured? If it can, how reflected this concept of happiness on a it's not a survey. I just said it's a bunch of studies, and we're even going to talk about some of them. So don't jump the gun. I know you love to be contrarian and you don't do a very good job of it, but we will get there. So this was 22 different studies by Castor and other scientists in the field have found that more materialistic and extrinsically motivated you become, the more depressed you will be. The less happy you are, less satisfied with your life, the less vital and energetic you feel, the less likely they are to experience pleasant emotions like happiness and contentment and joy. The more depressed they are, the more anxious they are, the more they experience unpleasant emotions like fear, anger, sadness, and the more likely they are to engage in the use of substances. And they're more likely to have conflict in their interpersonal relationships, and those interpersonal relationships seem to be shorter in length than people who don't value this as much. And interestingly, there have been also studies that have linked them to have more likely to hold racial and ethnic prejudices. So that was interesting. So, and a lot of what they, John has also, or John Johan, I'm sorry. He has also written a different book, and he's talked a lot about addiction and how we have found, like a lot of us think, including myself used to think, is that, oh, like a substance like heroin is going to make people addicted. Like people are going to get addicted to it. And yeah, maybe some people are more likely, but a lot of research has actually shown that this is not the case. Like, yeah, I'm not telling you guys to go try heroin, but there is a famous also study, which is called the Rat Park. I don't know how many of you guys have heard of it. I had heard of it before, but they basically, like if you put rats in like a cage, and they have two sources of water, and one source is normal water and one source is drug induced water or whatever, water with drugs in it. Almost all the rats are going to take the water with drugs. That is going to make them happier. But in this rat park experiment, they have a different setting where the rats have everything they need. They have whatever rats need to be happy. They have space, they have great food, they have great connections, sex, whatever makes rats happy. And obviously the parallel is that if you have all the things in life that make you happy, they found that almost none of the rats were taking the drug water. They were taking the regular water because they had all the things in their life that actually makes them happy. So they didn't need this artificial stimulus, or they didn't need this artificial drug to make them happy. And they found that this is very similar with drugs. Like a lot of people that are addicted to drugs, there's underlying causes to that. And if you are somebody that is overall more happy, you don't even have the desire to use substances. And if you do somehow, need to use a substance, you don't get addicted to it. You don't like it. And interesting, that seems to mostly contradict the mass utopia experiment, even though I don't know about that experiment, but look up the Rat Park experiment. That's the one I'm talking about. You just spoke to it more just now. Yeah, the happy rats don't do drugs. Actually, don't agree with. Well, you disagreed with it last time because you were telling us that chasing wealth and status makes life better, which is what Tate and your BFF. Ain't that your friend? Ain't that your friend? Have you guys seen that TikTok? That's how I feel about you. Okay, so. And again, it's not, I think people like Tate and stuff, they profit and they bank off of this narrative that's already everywhere we see, like social media. Oh, how good do you look? How many followers you have? How much money do you have? How fun does your life look? And advertising, right? Advertising, the whole point of advertising is selling you a solution, is selling you that the product they're selling you is the solution before they even advertise the product. And that's what advertising banks on, right? Your life would be better if you had X. Your sadness would be better if you had X, if you bought X. I fall into this all the time and it does not work. So there was actually a study even in, it was in 1978 where they had kids and they showed half the kids a 2-minute advertisement of a toy. And the other half of the kids didn't see this advertisement. Then they showed a really mean, terrible boy. Like they were told the kids, you can play with one of these two boys. They showed one boy that was mean, vicious, terrible, but he had the toy that they had just seen the advertisement of. The other boy was a really nice boy, but he didn't have that toy. And the kids that had seen that advertisement would rather play with the mean boy that had the toy, and the kids that didn't see the advertisement would rather play with the nice boy. So how crazy is that a kid seeing a 2-minute advertisement was willing to give up kindness at like a good friend to be around and would rather be around someone nasty because they had this piece of plastic that they had just been told is better, makes you cool, makes you better. And it's the same narrative that these like men, these high value, low value, whatever. Like, I can't think of anything that could make somebody more miserable. Even like Jordan Peterson, who is talking about this dominance hierarchy all the time. Oh, the men at the top, the men at the bottom. Obviously, this message is going to make you miserable. And if you're chasing these things, you're going to be miserable. And then if you achieve these things, you're not going to be any happier either. So it's like, that's the part of it that drives me crazy is it's like, and he talked about this too. It's like, we've had philosophers for thousands of years, right? Talk about how chasing wealth and status won't make you happy. It doesn't contribute to your well-being. You know, Confucius, Socrates, Plato, they never sat there and been like, you know what, you should be what makes you a high value man? Making a lot of money, fucking a lot of bitches. That's not the message that they have ever spread. And then now we have so much research to also back this, but yet people watch these stupid YouTube videos, don't use any critical thinking skills and fall right into this trap, right? Because they're spending their time instead of reading and researching and all of that on social media and on these platforms. And that is why I'm passionate about talking about this, not just for you guys, but for me, because my job is social media now, and I don't want to get sucked into this because it is tempting. Because it's like a quick dopamine rush. And actually, he even made the connection. I'm obviously in the porn industry, that it's kind of like porn as a substance. Like he said, and I agree with him, that it's not bad. Like, junk food isn't bad. It's not like you should never have junk food. It's not like you should never watch porn, but you should have a balance. And it's not like you can never have any extrinsic goals. But if that is what you're searching, instead of a relationship, you are relying on porn to fulfill a need. If you are relying on chasing money to fulfill a need, this is when it can become a problem. Nietzsche thought you should be high value. You give me very much slave morality vibes from Nietzsche, to be honest. Frankly, even antidepressant adverts don't show depression. What they show looks like general sadness. How are otherwise healthy or non-depressed? Yeah. Good point. Oh my God. I had the blanket on. Now I'm like hot and I can't even. Actually, some of the did mention to some and about societies where there is a wealthier and happier class. So I think what you're talking about is that, and I've talked about this before, having like the poor, if you're if you're in poverty versus you're rich, the rich people are happier. But if you have everything you need, if you even have $1 million, having $50 million is not going to make you any happier. In fact, it's likely to make you more sad. And, that's not the majority. Like Plato spent, I was just reading Plato's 5 Dialogues. He spent like 80 fucking these annoying pages. Oh, what is virtue? What is virtue? Is it wisdom? Is it this? And they always talk about chasing wisdom. Confucius, what is it? The common man will chase something, comfort, and the superior man will chase virtue. They have spent most of their time trying to define virtue, well-being, and happiness, and they didn't talk about how you should go and chase cars and pussy, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know about Pigeon Emperor's sources. Porn is addicting, just like smoking. It's not just like smoking. You should watch my porn video. But I do think that it's like social media. Social media is addicting, but social media isn't addicting the way fentanyl is addicting. Porn is not addicting the way smoking is addicting. It's different. That doesn't mean that it can't be negative, and that doesn't mean you can't be addicted. You can be addicted to Doritos. I don't know if you guys saw that Twitter thread about how Doritos are addicting. But if we have to be able to differentiate between what kind of addiction you're talking about. If it's a compulsion, so I think porn can be a compulsion, social media can be a compulsion, But to consider it an addiction the way gambling and smoking is not scientifically accurate. Yeah, how would you interpret his work as supporting? And Nietzsche's actually like my least favorite philosopher, but I don't know. And actually, I would say the parallel that Nietzsche's work always brings to mind for me is people like pigeon emperors and incels who like think things like it's like the number one thing that comes to my mind when I read Nietzsche and when I compare it to incels and the idea of morality. And I don't agree with Nietzsche's work, but when I look at incels and their hatred and vitriol for like happy people or people that have things that they don't have, and then they assume women are bad and this is bad, blah blah blah, it's because you don't have those things, so now it's bad because it's what you don't have. I always think of it in that way. The physical addiction of smoking is the easy part to break through. Psychological addiction is much more destructive. Depends what you're smoking. I wouldn't say, I think, if you're addicted to crack, you're smoking crack. I think there's both involved. But I thought it was interesting that if you are happy and you smoke crack, or you're happy and you shoot up some heroin, you won't get addicted to it. Now this isn't 100%, but you know what I mean? Like there is research that shows that they've been giving people, in fact, in some settings, more of that drug, and they don't get addicted to it versus some people do. And, is it biological? Is it social? I think there is definitely, and your happiness level is partially biological, but there's a lot more that goes into it. Can I rebut that porn isn't similar to gambling statement? Yeah, go for it. You're not so pigeon emperors is like goal in life is just to defend statements and then say he doesn't agree with those statements or he doesn't agree with those people. I know he likes to be on every single live stream of mine, but one day maybe he will do better. How would gambling not be a compulsion like the reliance on porn if both don't affect the brain with chemical stimulants? Because the way when the researchers, you should watch my video on it, when researchers actually looked at brain scans or compared the brain activity of people who are addicted to substances or gamble versus the people who are watching porn and are addicted to porn, it's not the same. So with porn, it does reward the reward center of the brain. Sometimes in other studies, that wasn't even conclusive. With gambling, it actually can change your brain chemistry. So that is why it's not me. There's a reason that the APA, American Psychological Association, and the DSM-5, they don't consider porn an addiction. It's not just Jasmine Jafar saying that. That's what they said, but they do consider gambling an addiction for those reasons. Okay. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Again, so commercially driven countries like US and UK are amongst the least happy places in first world societies compared to other countries that don't have as much an emphasis on consumerism and advertising. So again, I saw this in one of the articles I read, and it kind of related to things I've talked about before, which is like the pie. Your life should be a pie. So if you think about your value system as being various slices of pie, one slice being materialism, one slice being spirituality, another being family, another whatever. As the materialistic slice gets larger and larger is when we see the problems arise. In part, that's because it's a zero-sum game. As one set of values goes up, the others tend to decrease in size. The issue is understanding the variety of ways that you are being motivated and when those are materialistic or extrinsic. So that is the main issue with these messages that these men are telling you. Like, oh, you should try to be high value. Well, what is high value? Being rich, making money, having status, having women. If that part of your pie is what you're focusing on, you're more likely to not be very happy. And solutions is they have found that when people actually get together and they talk about things that they need to have was consumerism. Oh, I want these sneakers. Well, why do you have these sneakers? How do you think your life will be more meaningful if you have these sneakers or you have this car? Or talking about what actually makes you happy. What's a meaningful time in your life? And then talking about how to increase that has been shown to increase happiness levels. I think it's important to understand the substance in things, even if you disagree with them. Maybe especially my point with Nietzsche was just that philosophers have called for achievement as a purposeful goal. Yeah, of course you can find like literally Plato has talked about how people want good things and virtue is achieving those good things. But if you look at their works as a whole, philosophers have not been telling you what Andrew Tate has been telling you, my guy. And you found the like most problematic philosopher to make your case, and it's still not making a great case. I understand you want to one time just find something to say to be smart, and we allow you here for that reason. We don't block you. It seems like these Monday nights are integral to your well-being because you're at every one of them. I appreciate that. But maybe you should just try to actually see what we're saying instead of just make up, like just come up with something out of your ass because it doesn't stick the way you want it to stick. And let's put up Hazard Stint's comment because I do agree with that. I think there's a difference between purposeful goals and being over the top in excess. So I think your main goal should be intrinsic, right? I want to be more courageous. I want to be more brave. I want to if you watch like my first stream, I talked about this, the relationship you have with yourself and how you should, sorry, my tits are like falling out of this. How you should do things so that your goal in life should really be that relationship with yourself. Okay. How do I gain confidence? Well, doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. How can I have more empathy? These are things that will make you happier when you achieve those milestones. How can I increase my discipline? And sometimes, and a lot of the time, that's going to reach the extrinsic goals too. But you should never be chasing the extrinsic goals. And if you're walking around taking this message in that you're low value and that man is higher value because of money and status, which are the two things that these studies have literally shown make you unhappy, you're doing it wrong. And that's the message that I'm sharing. And I'm also trying to share the message that with depression and loneliness, and maybe I'll do another stream after I've read the book. And I had a follower who was reading the book, and this was a great quote that he highlighted. What if depression is in fact a form of grief for our own lives not being as they should? What if it is a form of grief for the connections we have lost yet still need? So having those meaningful connections is the key to happiness. And that's what I talked about last time. And that's what Pigeon whatever didn't agree with. But having those meaningful connections is what's important. And if so, there's any man trying to teach an unhappy man how to be happier, that's what they should focus on. And that's not what they're focusing on, which is really unfortunate. It's causing a lot of these problems that we're seeing with men in our society. This isn't by any means personal or an attack on it, but observation. Let's consider OnlyFans content. So when gambling, let's take, for instance, something simple like slot machines, the light / the risk of reward of getting an endorphin rush and want to invest because of the prospect of getting a big score, regardless of what they may lose. In a sense, the same could be said for OnlyFans content. The attention that a subscriber can get from a content creator when they receive messages from their favorite. It's not this. I just explained why it's not the same. Now, that doesn't mean that there are no unhealthy people using OnlyFans or that people aren't using OnlyFans in an unhealthy way. But there is a reason. I think you should watch that video before you and then talk to me again, because I'm totally interested in what you have to say. But I explained thoroughly why they don't consider porn, which I guess OnlyFans content is porn. But if you're talking about a fake connection that people get through OnlyFans, I think some people do get that, but that's why you should be mindful of who you subscribe to. Like if you subscribe to me, I don't fake message anybody at all. I am very upfront. I don't put on a show. I don't sell a fantasy for that reason, because I don't want the subscribers on my page coming there and thinking that there's a relationship that's not there. I am I think of myself more as like I'm providing you content and I'm providing you a service. And if you can understand those boundaries, then you can consume the content in a great way. You're here right now consuming my content, you're learning something, or you're having a discussion with me. You can go on my OnlyFans after, and you could go to my other live stream and jerk off, and that's what it is. You're not sitting there thinking that I have some special feelings for you. I don't ever play that game with any of my subscribers. So that's how I run my page. Now, other people may run their page differently, but I don't think it's like a one size fits all. And there have been very positive impacts of OnlyFans and consuming that kind of content on subscribers. There's a podcast episode I want to do because there's that new article that came out that people that use OnlyFans are more educated about sex. There's something of that sort. Don't quote me on that. And so it's all about, and it's the same with social media. Nobody's even him. He was asked like, should you delete your social media? And he's like, that's not the solution here. He compared it to like if when the Nazis, during that, if you made a personal pledge not to invade Poland, like that doesn't do anything. The whole point is we need to kind of change our perspective as a society. And you can, for your own part, you can start curating your social media to be something more positive. If your social media is all meditation and yoga and philosophy, you're probably not going to have these junk values, right? And so if you're subscribing to an OnlyFans girl who is like me, who is not going to feed you this bullshit, you're probably not going to get that same negative impact than if you're messaging an OnlyFans girl who's lying to you, who's playing a fantasy, who's making you think that she likes you, who is kind of playing at your, what it is. For me, it's like if you like my body type and you want to see some titties bouncing, that's what I can give you. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm seeing the rest of your content now. Creator, whether it's automated or not, people's minds light up at the prospect of getting a message. The thought is, of course, the more they invest, the more content they receive, but also the more they hope they will be noticed and have a higher significance to the creator, regardless of the fact that they may. Yeah. So again, I don't play this. In fact, I will restrict. I have this rule. If you message me and ask for anything, I will tell you one time, hey, that's not what I'm here for. And if you ask again, I restrict you. I don't let you message me anymore. So, and I do that for a reason. I don't want to engage in I know Andrew Tate loves the lover boy method. I do not engage in the lover girl method. I will not, even if you ask me, how's your day? I'm like, hey, I don't have time for this. It's not that I don't care about your day, but I'm not here to make friends and make men think that this is a different type of relationship than what it is. I don't even do video calls where people ask me, hey, can you masturbate on the call with me? No, because you don't turn me on. I'm not going to pretend you turn me on. That's how I run my page. A lot of people disagree with a lot of things. I'm still unsure of your motives for saying things to the contrary as if it's yeah. I don't know. What book are you reading? It's the book by the guy I'm talking about. It's called Lost Connections. Puerto Rican Pod 22 likes the other stream. Adding nuance to the claim that philosophers are in agreement that pursuing achievement. Well, what is the achievement? Is it wealth and status, or is it intrinsic achievement? That there's achievement. Just the word achievement doesn't necessarily mean Bugatti. Again, yeah, you just like to say shit, and none of it hits, Pigeon Emperors. And I'm not saying this to be mean to you. I'm just saying this because I'm gonna try not to be mean to you. I'm just saying this because I think you should maybe try a different approach. I think King of the Hunt is doing a much better job than you by just bringing up a point that he's curious about. And I think he's doing much better because he's not just trying to say something that's like, he's not trying to be contrarian. And when you're trying to be that way, people can see it. And if you're just coming up with arguments to try to achieve that goal, that extrinsic goal, it's not hitting correctly. Not speaking about you specifically, just generally where people who have depression / loneliness and even a lack of self-control because of craved attention, they're a vulnerable subgroup to the only. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that those men need to, it's not a problem with the women or OnlyFans as a platform. It can be used in a way that is negative. It can be used in a way that is positive, just like all social media. I don't blame people on social media for people misusing social media, right? I don't think it is by like, and he talks, I really like the way he says it. He's like, he even said, I like porn. I watch it. It's good, but it can't, you can misuse it. And the same thing with OnlyFans. And, just like alcohol, we can't blame, bars for people misusing alcohol. It's not that we shouldn't have bars. It's not that we shouldn't have casinos, because some people misuse casinos. And that's how I think about OnlyFans. Now, I try to do my part in making sure I don't take advantage of those vulnerable populations. Yeah, my moderator said that this guy is just describing parasocial relationships in the context of OnlyFans. Yeah. And this is not just OnlyFans. I mean, like, even just random people like on Instagram or YouTube and stuff have people who think that there's a relationship that there isn't, and it's a one-way relationship, and the other part of the relation, it's like in their head. And I do think that some OnlyFans girls will take advantage of that. But not all of them. And that is one of the reasons I don't like agencies, because I think agencies do that. Hi, like, I don't like that at all. There's even an argument that AI is doing that, because you can now like date somebody via AI. And for some people, actually, it's shown to help their loneliness. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's still very new. Of course, my premise was never that OF is the issue, but like how not everyone who gambles is addicted. It's the fact that some people overstimulate and build a dependency on it. I'm not saying that it can't be bad for you. I'm just saying it's not like gambling, because it doesn't change your brain chemistry the way that gambling does. And that is why scientifically the medical community has come to a consensus that they are not going to consider porn addiction an addiction the way they consider gambling to be an addiction. This isn't the Matrix that has just like decided, we're gonna just make people. No, there's a reason for it, and I go into that in depth in I have a YouTube video on it too that you should check out. The chat is an ongoing dialogue, and you seem more interested in stirring the pot instead of actually genuinely engaging with this in a way that respects everyone's time. I don't feel hurt when I try to engage with you. I agree with this, and look, I'm leaving Pigeon Emperors here because I don't like to ban people unless they're being like, like they're just calling just names. But if enough people are like, hey, he's like kind of ruining the chat because he doesn't provide anything of value, we can kick him off. Up to you guys. I don't really mind. But again, he's just, it's getting too much, because it's just not, he doesn't bring up any good points. He's just trying to stir the pot. And I don't want the rest of you to have to deal with him being annoying. So, yeah. I can't believe I was cold. Now I'm hot. Now I want the ceiling fan on. What are your thoughts on AI? I think it's just so new. I don't know. I like having Pigeon Emperor here, not because his opinions are insightful, but because it's important to be able to differentiate valid arguments versus saying anything. All right. Yeah, I don't mind having him here. I think sometimes when you have somebody that gives you those stupid comments, it gives you an opportunity to debunk those and then better support good arguments. So he just seems to really want the focus of the conversation to be on or about him or how he feels things. Yeah, I'm gonna just say this. Sorry, Pigeon Emperors. This is probably the most attention you've gotten in your life, and that's why you continue to come back. You're like probably like just getting off to this. Porn addiction is actually worse. It rewires your brain to weird shit. Please list your sources. What is it worse than? How does it rewire your brain to weird shit? Because that is not supported by the mountain of evidence that we have or any studies we have. I actually still have my notes from the porn because I don't remember everything off the top of my head. But let's see. Maybe I don't still have them. Yeah, it's not neurochemistry. It does activate reward centers of your brain like other addictions, but that alone is not enough for it to meet the criteria of being an addiction. Study measuring the brain of people who self-identified as having, that's another thing. The only way you know if you have an addiction with porn is by just thinking you have an addiction with porn. And the most important thing that I found was that, or not the most important, the most interesting thing that I found was that if you view porn as bad or immoral, the more likely you are to deal with this porn addiction, which basically means that if you think something is bad and you keep doing it because you're normal and it's a natural human response and you can't stop doing it, now you think you have an addiction. And really, it's just your feelings towards porn that is causing it, if that makes sense. So there was a larger study in 2015 by UCLA neuroscientists that seems to suggest the opposite. When people who struggle with porn consumption were presented with sexual images, they did not show a specific spike in brain activity than those living with addiction typically experience when they see an image of their object. When they see an image of the object of their addiction, in fact, their brain response actually decreased when viewing porn. There was a study before that showed that there was a spike that was similar, but again, that alone wasn't even enough to make it an addiction. And there was a bigger study that almost kind of debunked it. So it's inconclusive even on that. But even if we had that, that isn't enough to consider it an addiction. So it's a compulsion. Ultimately, people develop compulsive connections to many things in their life, especially if those things alleviate anxiety or fulfill a sense of longing or loneliness. So I do agree with what King of the Hunt just said. I totally agree with that because I think that you can definitely use it as a compulsion in order to alleviate those mental health problems that you already have. 2013 study showed that men who have trouble resisting the lure of porn websites might simply have dispositions that make them more vulnerable to compulsive problems in general. Oh, you're a 1L. Congratulations. This is the hardest year you'll have. I think 2L and 3L year are much better. Okay, let me see. Damn, so toxic. I just took issue with the sweeping generalization that philosophers of thousands are in agreement achieving mere success isn't meaningful by providing a specific and very significant example. You didn't provide a specific and very significant example. That is the point. And again, I said that last week before I had even read any of this, but this was actually reiterated by him too. Is that, okay, we know that for a long time, a lot of philosophers have been telling us what is virtue and happiness and well-being is not having the biggest car and the biggest and the fattest asses on your bitches and stuff. And Pigeon Emperor's like, no, that is what they're saying. That is a valid point with a substantive example. It's not though. Again, you're just and again, you're just trying to find like, I'm like, hey, this is what the research shows. This is the overall thing. You're like, no, over here, and one thing that could be interpreted like, it's just annoying, and we get it. You want the attention, but and I'm not going to kick you off because some people want you here, but I don't want to delve into it too deeply. But I was exposed to porn at a young age, and as I got older, I noticed that I started watching more extreme stuff. I've just barely gotten over it. I think there could be something here. I was actually going to do a follow-up video on the negative and positive impacts of porn because there are both. And I do think that if you're being exposed to it at a young age is not good. Now, the problem is, how can we really prevent that? We can't. So what is the solution here is also a question. Like, it's the internet. We're not going to be able to get rid of it. So a lot of younger people are going to be exposed to porn. Now, there is a lot of myths out there that it'll get you desensitized. You'll no longer get hard to like less extreme things. And that has been debunked too from I want to do more research on it, so don't quote me, but I did read one study at least that didn't find that. But there is the anti-porn movement does have this big argument that like, oh, now the only people are desensitized to regular sex. No, I don't think that's happening. So yeah. In fact, Pornhub came out with like the most searched things, and they're very basic. But when you go on their site, it's like all weird. I just made a Pornhub, by the way. Maybe I'll add it to the link. Thank you. I'm struggling between my internship at the firm I've been with for a while and keeping up with some of my. Oh, we weren't in our school. We weren't allowed to work as 1Ls. Probably for that reason. We were only allowed to work as 2Ls and 3Ls. Now I try to keep my workload very minimal 2L and 3L year. When I had externships and internships, because I didn't want to overextend myself, but some people really had a much harder time 2L and 3L year, not academically, but trying to manage things because they were also doing what you're doing. So I get it. Thanks for sharing this. A lot of kids get exposed before they should, and their predators use it to groom. Yes, I think this is, I am not somebody that wants children to be exposed to porn at all. Which is why I really like sites like OnlyFans over sites like Pornhub, where can you steal your parents' credit card and get on OnlyFans? Sure. Are you going to be far less is it going to be any hurdle we can create to keep children away from this content? I am all for. I am all for that. I am all for OnlyFans or having porn websites verify, show an ID that you're over 18 before you can get in the website. I am all for having this paywalled content, because there are far less children actually unlocking OnlyFans content than they are on Pornhub. So I am with you there. Now, what I don't agree with is banning porn, which, first of all, not practical. We're never going to be able to ban porn unless we ban the internet. Or trying to say porn is bad in general because it's bad for kids, because we don't apply that to other things. Rated R movies are 17 and over. Do we want kids to watch them? No. Does that mean we shouldn't have them because kids can access them? No. Can kids access alcohol and all the other types of bad things? Yes. Now, the internet is a scary thing because it is so accessible and kids have access to it. And so what's the solution? Education, trying to take measures in order to try to prevent or have kids have to go through more hurdles to get this kind of content. If you're a parent, I would put whatever kind of safety measure you can put on your laptop or your computers so that kids maybe can't access it. If you're a parent, be very mindful of what your kids are watching. These are things that I think are like our only options. She doesn't see my post. I don't know what you're talking about. They used to do that at my school, but since COVID, they kind of became lax with it because they realized people need to afford to live. Okay. Yeah, COVID was after my 1L year, so. Oh, ask what I do besides Twitch. Oh, okay. I am an OnlyFans creator, and I am kind of branching out to doing YouTube, TikTok, kind of the stuff I'm talking about here. So you could check out my beacons and you can see some of my other socials. But I'm also a lawyer, so very unconventional, career path to go from lawyer to this. But I think that's kind of what makes me kind of unique and why I can share some of the insight that I can share. I used to have to wait 20 minutes for 20 seconds of porn to download on LimeWire. I feel like I dodged a bullet by being a teen as smartphones just picked up steam. Can't imagine how locked in I've been if I had unlimited access to internet at that age. Yeah, I agree with you. I think kids these days, and that is probably one of the reasons, that's one of the things contributing to this big problem we're seeing with how the well-being of kids and how it's not the way it was even when we were kids. So yeah, I don't know what the solution is, but It is a problem. So can we discuss how Japan has a decreasing birth rate because people are turning towards online fictional relationships, which more than likely involve some sexual components? I know Japan has that problem. I don't know necessarily why, or why Japan in general would have it and not other countries, because we all have access to the internet. I do think that the internet is making people more lonely because it is promoting these junk values. I think that is a big reason why. It's not making you lonely just because you have it. And yeah, if you're on social media instead of going on a hike, fine. But I think a lot of us, if we weren't on social media, we'd be watching a movie or something. Like, it's not something you do instead of going to the gym, for most people. But I think it is pushing these junk values, and it's creating these relationships that aren't very deep and meaningful. It's creating very surface level relationships and connections. Otaku culture. I've never heard of that. That's interesting. I have heard that Japan has the decreasing birth rate issue, but I don't know anything more about it. But I guess my point was that if it's an issue specific to Japan, I'm curious why. Was Japan the country where they started giving people like a break in the middle of work to go have sex? There was like some country that did that. Part of what created that problem in Japan is okay, yeah, maybe it was Japan then. Thank you. Yes, it is. Yes, it is an awesome, this career. Unconventional is the term. Here in France, I've never seen such a lawyer. I have a lot of family in France, so I love France. But you know what's funny? My cousin in France, because I was explaining to him back when I still worked at the firm and I was doing OnlyFans, I was living a double life. And I'm like, yeah, if my firm finds out, they're going to fire me. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because I have an OnlyFans. And he's like, so? And I'm like, yeah, that's a problem. He's like, you Americans are like uptight. He's like, you guys talk about freedom. You guys are not really free. Here in France, like, people are very more sexually liberated, and you're far less likely to get the stigma that you get here for that. That's what he said. I've been there a lot, but I'm not like living there or like really in the culture, so I don't know. But yeah, main point was just that the narratives that you see on the internet, or what you focus on the internet, is going to affect you. And even people like Jordan Peterson, who I think sometimes gives you good advice, all his videos are just talking about this hierarchy and women going for the top. Like, it's just not good for you to like consume this content, and it doesn't make you happier, because most of the men consuming this content aren't even the men at the top. So you're being told that you're less valuable for things that you shouldn't even be placing value on if you're trying to be happy. It's so backwards. Are you from the USA? Yes, I am. I think I agree with your cousin to that end. Yeah. He was just so confused. He's like, I don't get it. Why would you be? I was like, in the United States, like, you even when you look at my comment section back when I had an Instagram on my reels, you would see people that were very much like, how are you a lawyer? You can't be a lawyer. You're going to get disbarred. You probably lost your license for this. I'm like, on what grounds? Yes, a firm can fire me, but what rule, what ABA rule are you referring to? Please let me know, where you can't have an OnlyFans and be a lawyer. Well, I'm in line with what you're saying about focus. Peterson pointed out that what you focus on becomes your default. Yeah, and then it's interesting because he makes people focus on his most viral content. Now, I don't watch a ton of his content, and I know some of it, especially some of his older stuff, that was just purely psychology focused, could be really beneficial. But his viral stuff, if you go on YouTube and you kind of consume this kind of content, the kind of shorts that are going to pop up are all talking about this bullshit. And it's like, that is his focus. His focus is on hating transgender people and talking about this dominance hierarchy. And it's like, what stupid shit to focus on. Do you still practice the profession of a lawyer? Yes, my license is still active. Pigeon Emperors is still in here. I find Freud kind of helps us realize the issue with happiness as it relates to self-actualization. We begin to realize we cannot truly be happy as long as there's something more to be gained. Well, King of the Hunt, Pigeon Emperors vehemently disagrees with you on what philosophers have deemed or psychologists have deemed to be the key to happiness. Apparently, it's just material achievement. But anyways, self-actualization. I mean, we have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And one theory as to why people are more depressed today is because we've met so many, like, people have food, shelter, whatever, and especially if you have those things. So I think one way we can look at it is Maslow's hierarchy of needs is a lot of people, once they've reached the basics, then they're like, well, how do I reach the self-actualization? And people think, oh, to reach the top of the pyramid, I need money, status, wealth, whatever. And that is not what self-actualization is, right? So what's your view of dominance hierarchies? It depends. You have to be more specific about that. Dark Room by Jill, is it Christman? I don't know. Is a good book on trauma. All right, throw it up in case anyone wants to read that. Do you get any overlap between law clients and OnlyFans clients? No. And the funniest messages I get are people that find my titties on Reddit or on my OnlyFans. They're like, hey, what's your hourly rate to be a lawyer? I'm like, do not find your lawyer this way. I don't practice in your jurisdiction. You don't even know what kind of law I practice. Like, no. You're right. And JP's earlier lectures where he was actually just doing the grind as a liberal arts professor are amazingly insightful, especially if you employ? Seriously, Jasmine? I think it went downhill because he realized what made him popular is raging against pronouns for 10 years. And then he was like, oh, and then he saw that talking about how men at the top get women and women at the bottom don't get women it's like I think it's like trauma porn to some men. Like, I think some men just, it's like validating to hear that they are at the bottom of a hierarchy. Like, I don't get it. It's so bizarre to me because men who are doing well don't consume this content. It's men who are struggling consume this content that's telling you that you're not valuable because you're not wealthy and you don't have status and you don't get women. And then you just continuously watch this stuff, maybe hoping that if you do what Andrew Tate tells you, or you do what Jordan Peterson tells you, you will reach the top of this hierarchy. That actually isn't the key to a good, meaningful life. I don't understand, but I think people like Peterson know that. I think Peterson is very intellectually dishonest, especially in the way he talks about that and the way he talks about his belief in God. He can't answer the fucking question. There's that clip that went viral on Twitter, like, where someone's like, do you believe in God? He's like, what do you mean do? What do you mean you? What do you mean believe? What do you mean in? Like, he can't answer this question. There's this discussion he had with Sam Harris that is the funniest shit ever, because Sam Harris basically called him out on it. He's like, this is what I mean by God. And he had on his laptop, like, this weird like, he's like, God is what you see in the horizon of your mind when you are deep in your REM sleep. Like, what the fuck? It's just so stupid. It's accurate to call black pill philosophy trauma porn. I think so. I've been interested in why men seek surrogate fathers in the way they are nowadays. I'm interested too. I've always considered it like, it's almost been like weirdly, like, I've said this before, it's like almost homoerotic to me. And I've spent a lot of times in like these incel forums trying to understand. They're like obsessed with men more so than they are obsessed with women. It's like they are constantly just looking at these chads, these alpha males, like studying their faces, their jawlines, their everything. Like, it's very odd to me. It's stuff that women don't even like. I've never looked at. I'm like, oh, his ratio of his jawline, right? But these men are like sitting there obsessed with it, and then they find these men like Andrew Tate, who again are literally showing you the epitome of how to be a miserable person, and they're so like they're just like, oh no, yeah, he's great, top G, top G, top G, like, and it's like women don't do like there's. I mean, I think like young girls will like fan club like a Beyonce or something, but like you would be if I go on TikTok live, you don't know how many men will just comment, Andrew Tate is top G, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you like? And I'm not even talking about Andrew Tate at that time. Let me see. What did I miss? I would expect judges would try to keep it professional in public since they still want their jobs. That probably was relating to something I said earlier that I no longer remember. I like the meme, "Are you winning, son?" to summarize the generational rift we experience with dads and their funds and their sons nowadays. I haven't seen that meme. Imagine Andrew Tate and Kevin Samuels in the same room. I think the internet would cancel itself. Kevin Samuels is dead and Andrew Tate is in prison. So they're doing great, guys. Great role models we have here. They don't acknowledge the homoerotic aspect, even discussing their attraction to women. Yeah, and I do feel like these loser men really like they even get into these like groups online and they get in these jerk off circles. And I get invited into them sometimes because one of like my fans will be like, "Oh, they're like posting your pictures in here." And I've like gone in them just to be like curious, and it's very, very bizarre. It's like they're all jerking off together. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. And this is like the extreme sect of this manosphere, right? But my problem isn't the extreme people, although the extreme people can actually be very dangerous. But this ideology is bleeding out to more than just them. It's something akin to women with the Kardashians. No, there is no girl who is just scrolling online on random people's lives like Kardashian is top G. Like nobody's doing that. You know, it's and they're not talking about the Matrix and everybody's out to get Kim Kardashian and she's wrongly accused. Like people don't do that. Especially grown women. And you'll see men in their 20s and maybe 30s doing this for Andrew Tate. I don't think it's the same at all. Oh, you missed again. My post is a judges subscribe to your OnlyFans account. Would we consider that they're a conflict? I don't do litigation, so I'm not in court. I don't think judges would like judges are very careful about everything they do online. I have clerked for some judges and like they won't even, you cannot find them on the internet for that reason. But lawyers are different. And I do think like, yeah, you should have the choice. Like, you know, if you need a contract reviewed and your lawyer has an OnlyFans, whatever, right? A judge may be different, but it's not a violation of the rules. It's an ethical issue. There is a severe obsession with the lookism part of attraction. Yeah, and I do think that people in that community obviously overemphasize how much people are attracted, like people and there have been studies that have confirmed this, that incels will overemphasize how important those extrinsic factors are to women, because I think it helps fuel the narrative that it's out of their control and it's the trauma porn. Oh my God, we were just born this way and they were born that way, and et cetera, et cetera. People say Queen Kylie a lot. It's not the same thing. Nobody is like defending human trafficking for Kylie. In all fairness, they call every woman. Yeah, literally, they call like my pole teacher calls me queen every time I walk in. I think Andrew Tate's the only one being called top G. Yes, but judges are human. They are human. I agree. I don't think that should be the case. I think that they should be able to do whatever they want. But even when I was working at the courthouse, they don't even share their political opinions online. They can't, like, they don't, they're very private as much as they can be, because they do have to put out that appearance of neutrality, even though they are human. I would hate to be a judge. Are you the guy from France? I love you guys. You guys are like, why can't judges jerk off to to the lawyers that in their court? Fair enough. And it's true, Andrew Tate is the leader of an ideological movement that a lot of people subscribe to, so it makes sense, I suppose. Studies show men are generally more, I don't know what that word means. Ooh, you're teaching me a word. Let me look up that word. I don't know what that word means. It's going to be my new favorite word watch. The love of looking. The term refers to the predominantly male gaze of Hollywood cinema, which enjoys objectifying women into mere objects to be looked at. Okay. Maybe that could skew. Oh, interesting. Yeah. But it seems like the men that have like the least conventionally attractive good looks are like the most obsessed. But not always. It's obviously because it's not, the incels are not incels purely because of the way they look. There are many people who aren't conventionally attractive that are normal, healthy people that get into healthy relationships, etc. There is obviously more layers involved to make incels be incels, and maybe an overemphasis on this might be part of that. Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that you gave me the definition after. And then I looked it up and then I read it. Andrew Tate equals Elliot Rogers with more muscle / social media. Yeah. But again, I don't know if Andrew Tate believes what he says or if I think it's a mix. Obviously, he's not doing shit right. He's been in jail forever. We talk about Andrew Tate a lot in here. Yeah, because of people like you. People like you need to hear this message. And I talked in the beginning why I bring people like him up a lot. I have a large male audience, and I am seeing a bunch of disillusioned men really feed into this narrative, and they flood my comments, they flood my content. And so it's like an issue in my personal life because of this now. Not personal life, I guess my online life. And I'm someone interested in psychology and human behavior. And this is like the hot topic right now. Like if I was a streamer years ago, I would have been obsessed with extremism and violent Islamic. I used to be obsessed with that. I used to literally like get online. I was like on a no-fly list pretty much because I was just so interested in how they recruit people and recruiting tactics that they use via social media. So I would like get into Twitter and find their profiles and how they would convince even women to go like from Canada and the United States to go be like wives. And it was, yeah, I was really interested in that, but that's not really as much of a thing anymore. And right now this is like the big thing. Yeah, I agree. Treacherously, please come back. Please come back. You are great. And same with King of Hunt. Same with Jigsaw 81. I'm really happy that you guys are here. You guys are bringing up stuff that I never even thought about, that like I am like really interested now in like looking into. Is it normal that I have more trouble understanding the English of an American than that of an Englishman? Yes, because they teach you, from what I know, they teach you like English, like that English, not our English, because that's the proper English. Also, you gotta stop insulting me, dog. You don't like the points I bring up, that's fine, but I'm not being rude to you. No, it's that you're not bringing up points. You're not bringing up like substantive points. That's the problem. Like King of Hunts, for instance, had a point about OnlyFans, and he's like, well, I think it can be analogous to gambling in this way. You don't do stuff like that. That's the problem. I'm still not sure if it's color or color. It's color. It's color. Duh. Calor. I actually don't. I mean, I've seen both. English is English, no. Is it the accent which change? Well, one is the accent, but they also say things differently. They have phrases that we don't use. We have phrases they don't use. We, maybe structure our sentences sometimes differently. We can understand them and they can understand us, but they're like we think of them as like proper, like they're like the proper sophisticated English. We're like the ratchet ghetto English, in my opinion. Color. People's reactions to modern life has been a personal interest of years. Capitalism makes people behave strangely and is interesting to analyze how it's affecting our culture. Yes, treacherously. Please come back. We love you. This is exactly the stuff me and Hazard Stin are like obsessed with, and you seem very intelligent, far more intelligent than I am, and I would love to have you on all streams. Yeah, and you've made zero arguments that would convince anyone who holds this mindset. You dismiss everything you don't like as stupid, etc. No, I actually have changed minds. I get messages daily about, and I'm going to actually throw them up, obviously not using names, on a TikTok or a YouTube video soon on, like, I'm going to do, people think sex workers can't change minds or be smart. I'm going to send you message after message after message after message of people being like, oh, you changed my mind about this. You changed my mind about sex work. You blah, 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 blah. So just because you don't want your mind to be changed, because you have literally been in this chat from the first second trying to get the attention that you don't get in any other respect in your life, by just making up points to be contrarian, it's not working for you. It doesn't mean that our arguments are not persuasive. Period. We got 12 minutes left before we go to the Freaky Live. For you in 2023, you will say that it is more lucrative to practice as a lawyer as a content creator. Not even close. I do very minimal law work now just to keep my license active, which I actually have to do a bunch of CLE soon. But it's not, I don't even, how I support myself financially is 100% pretty much right now on, in fact, the only kind of work I like to do with my license is pro bono, because I don't need the money. I am luckily doing very well as a content creator at this time. Thanks. I also stream sometimes. The topics here are really discussed from a woman's perspective, so refreshing stream. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I do this, is I feel like there's not a lot of women who talk about these things. It's a very male-dominated online sphere, and I don't like it, because I think that we can obviously, and I do think that a lot of these toxic men, like men on the Fresh and Fit podcast or whatever, they bring on girls and then they try to just attack them. And a lot of times these girls aren't ready for the attack, or they don't know how to respond. And the whole point is to try to make them look stupid. And that bothers me. So I want to be a voice on here. And also to break kind of the stigma and the narrative, the assumption surrounding OnlyFans girls that we're not smart, we don't have other talents. Me being a licensed attorney and being somebody who likes to read, who likes to discuss things like this, it surprises people, and it shouldn't. And I'm trying to kind of also break the wall. I got a message on my OnlyFans earlier saying like, hey, I feel really weird because I watched your YouTube and I watch your Twitch now, and I feel weird sexualizing you now. I'm like, no, don't, because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show people, especially for those of you that go to my Twitch and then go to my OnlyFans, that you can see somebody in a sexual context, or you should be, hopefully you have the cognitive capability to see somebody in a sexual context at one time, and then another time see them in a different context, like have a conversation with them. If you can't do that, that's a you problem. It's not that, oh, you're objectifying yourself in this. No, sex is sex. We're all objectifying people when we're having sex or when we want to have sex or when we're horny. But then we can also have conversations with those people and talk to those people and see those people as a multifaceted, fully rounded human being. And he's like, yeah, that's it. So like, I'm trying to make people see that. Which is why I don't just put on a fake sexual persona, because I'm like, no, this is me. This is who I really am. And I got big ass titties and you can enjoy both. Okay. Is the mindset that someone holds like the one that's allowed / meant to be changed? Seems like an ideology that feeds off of aggression as opposed to an ideology that is derived from understanding / constructing. You know what it is? I have a ring light right there and it makes me like the text blurry, or I'm dyslexic. That's why I can't read one of the two. Which that's from understanding / constructing opposing but reasonable arguments. You're a good 1L. What's your favorite class? My favorite classes really had to do with the teacher more so than the subject. Dark Room by Jill. Oh yeah, he talked about that. Let's put it up for those of you interested in that book. I don't see you doing bad as a content creator anytime soon. Neither do I. So we're gonna top J. Let's start that. Top J. Hopefully, yeah, I'll be here as long as you guys want me to. To be fair, your kind is rare if we're being honest. I don't necessarily think so. Maybe it's rare because I have a different background than a lot of people who go into, and I've talked about this before. I don't think OnlyFans is for everybody, and I think a lot of girls that do it because they don't have other options and it's not best for them, but there are a lot of girls that don't do it that would thrive in it and it would be great, but they don't do it because of social stigma, and they don't do it because of the shame and the vitriol we put on women for, and the lack of self-respect, and the people correlate morality and modesty and sexual purity in a way that dissuades a lot of women from doing this, that would have, I think, a much better life overall and be more satisfied with their careers if they chose to do something like this. So there's two sides to it. But I will say that I've been in law school. I have been in a great law school, and I have met a lot of very intelligent women there. And I've also met a lot of really intelligent women. The women in this industry know how to hustle, and they are fucking smart, because a lot of us have to navigate social media platforms and trying to become successful with platforms that don't want us there. And the way that these girls know how to work around the system, the techniques they implement, the hustle that they have is like unmatched. It's a different ballgame to have casual intellectual discussions and trying to debate an influencer whose whole thing is to make others look stupid or suck up. Yeah. And that is what you see a lot of. And those are the moments, obviously, that go viral. But there are some great content creators where that is not the goal and that is not the purpose. And, and they actually want to see that other perspective, or a lot of times they just don't have people, that they don't bring on people that won't look stupid. That's the whole point. And that's what I see a lot with the Fresh and Fit podcast. I was watching Hassan, he's a big Twitch streamer, earlier, and he did the funniest impression of the Fresh and Fit boys when one of the OnlyFans girls that they bring on actually like spits or like says something like good. They're like, oh, don't talk back to me, you whore. Like, they don't want that. They want to just sit there and just say stupid shit and make up statistics that, I think, was it Sneeko who said that 50% of college girls are being flown out to Dubai. 50%, like just shit like that. And they have an audience who doesn't know how to fact check. They have an audience that doesn't know how to research things. They have an audience that doesn't know. I mean, I'm going to do a video reacting to a OnlyFans clip I saw where they were talking about how like the average rate death, like the average person in the porn industry dies at like 20. It's like, no, that's not true. And if you did a little digging, you would realize that's not true. But the people that watch them want to believe what they hear. And if you want to believe what you hear, the more you want to believe something, the more skeptical you should be, and the more you should make sure it's actually true. That's always been what I think. The stigma change begins with women. As long as you have women degrading other women, it will never change. I don't think it starts with women. I think it's everybody. I don't think you need to put it on women to fix this problem. Women aren't like what? Women are responsible for the rise of Andrew Tate, for the incels, for the manosphere, for all the. I've gotten maybe 3 negative comments from women in my life. The rest have all been from men. Wait, you have big titties? No, I was kidding. So what time do you usually start here? 10 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays, 6:30 Pacific time on Mondays, which is 9:30 Eastern. Sometimes I have to move it a little bit, but I post on all my socials, including Instagram once I get it back. And I have my moderator schedule the stream like the day before so you guys can see it. Constitutional law. Your favorite class is con law? I am shocked. In principle, I am unable to put money in OnlyFans, yet I love women and sex. I understand the world we live in. I have no problem with that. Okay, sounds good. Something I bring up with black pill types is how I feel I don't really run into women that are most complained about. Yeah, and you know what's funny for us is we don't run into these men either. Like, if you were to look online, you would think like, I would never date somebody on OnlyFans. My girl couldn't be on OnlyFans. In real life, these men that have an issue with OnlyFans girls are sucking our dicks. They are sucking our dicks. I have yet to meet a man where I tell them I do OnlyFans and they're like, "Oh, it's not my thing." They like sucking my dick. Like it's just you don't see them in real. They like if I were to even like say 2 words to these guys, they melt. So all this bullshit that they're spewing online about women, one isn't true about women, and they're not even being honest with themselves. Yeah, I know. Hazard Sin and me are like crushing on treacherously right now. Treacherously, your gem and Vix are really cool. Yeah, I'm loving the people in this chat today. Confirmation bias, yeah. A lot of people, we all have a tendency towards it. You have to actively work against it. I am the queen of that. Like if you were to, I'm literally embarrassed in public because sometimes I'll be watching a video and somebody will be like, see it and they will think that I agree with it when I'm trying to watch something I actually disagree with because I don't want to get caught up in confirmation bias. But I will tell you, when you do that, your views will change on certain things, right? You will hear really good arguments against your point and maybe you'll move a little bit towards it, or you can learn how to better support your arguments by knowing the best argument against your case. That is something I am passionate about. Whatever you think of the best argument against it and know how to respond to it. You should be able to steel man your opponent's point. You should be able to reiterate it in a way that they agree with instead of trying to straw man it and change it so that you have an easier time arguing against it. All right. Do you do tax law? No, I refuse to be that boring. The problem is there's too many simps out here. I don't like that word. Simps equals incels. I don't think that's the case. Maybe my English makes me likable. You're just likable. Did Emperor actually leave? I'm shook. No, I think he's still in here. He's just commenting less probably because we think he's gone, and then the IRS taking way too much of your money. Do you know the IRS is fucking me? But you know what? It's fine. I'm still fine. But for us, it's like for instance, OnlyFans takes 20%, and then we get taxed. It's like I'm busting my pussy wide open for the government to take my money. But I'm fine with taxes. I just wish I could choose where they were going. If I could choose where they were going, tax the shit out of me. But I don't want my taxes to go to a new fighter jet. Okay. All right, it is time for the next stream. So you guys should go over there now. I'm going to log on over there. If you're already a subscriber, see you there. If you're not, you have time. I'm going to get off. I'm going to adjust my boobies, and then I'm going to be over there for a while. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. We had some really great people in here. What's the next stream? It's going to be next Monday. I don't have a topic yet. If you guys have topic suggestions, message me, DM me, Reddit, Instagram. Wish you could do it on Instagram. Snap, anywhere you can find me. Yeah, you could even email it to me over there if you have topic suggestions, if you have feedback. Except for, I think I already know the Pigeon Emperor's feedback. But everybody else, if you guys have feedback, whether it's positive or negative, email me, and I will be back here next Monday. And if you guys want to go have some other kinds of fun, see you there. All right. Bye.